to 19. These political parties are equal to themselves, where they provide their candidates to contest for various positions in the country, including the presidency. And in doing so, they have been able to form a kind of a council where the leaders of those political parties meet and then decide on certain issues that are quite very relevant. Again, it is also a council that provides necessary information or, guiding INEC on what they should do, because they are the people or the platforms in which some of these people that are contesting or they have contested, and then they try to provide this information for INEC to know how to handle these people who are contesting. And they are called Inter-Party Advisory Council, simply put in this acronym as IPAC. It's been there for a very long time. They have what they call the chairman, national chairman, who regulates the entire procedure, and any other person is answerable to him. And I think it is tenured. After a period of time, the chairman exits, and then he equally has the opportunity to recontest. If he's well loved, he succeeds to becoming or winning the second time around. Of course, we all know that indeed the council, that's IPAC, conducted an election to have a new executive. It was on the 18th of last December 2023, and it was well conducted, and at the end of the day, most people that participated saw the entire process to be quite very transparent. And the immediate past chairman of that council, that's IPAC, initially was Engineer Sani Yabagi. Engineer Sani Yabagi happens to be the chairman, national chairman of a well-known political party in Nigeria, Action Democratic Party, and I still know very well to be a candidate for the election of 2023 in that same political party, and then becoming the national chairman for the IPAC. But the tenure for the IPAC ended and election was organized, and he lost out. Now we have a newly elected chairman right on board in the person of Alhaji Yusuf Dantale. I don't know precisely the party he belongs, but in the course of discussion, we get to know. On that note, Aso Television decided to go beyond this level to really invite the organizing secretary, that's the national organizing secretary of IPAC, in the person of Comrade Martins Ebeola, to speak to us how the election was conducted, what are the issues there, and then when are we seeing new leadership taking off, and what does it have to do going forward? What are the things he hopes to do going forward, as now we have a brand new leadership of Inter-Party Advisory Council. It's a pleasure having you on the program this evening, Comrade Martins Ebeola.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gimba, for having me in your studio this evening.
I've had the opportunity, because I cover your activities most time. I know you, and you've been quite very outspoken, and your presence there in IPAC speaks a lot on what is expected to do going forward. Now, like I said in my preamble, categorically we noticed that on 18th of December, you people had an election. Can you put us through basically what happened within that period, and where are we today?
Okay, yes, thank you very much for this opportunity yet to be able to talk on some of the activities that took place in the Inter-Party Advisory Council. As we are all aware, that IPAC is the umbrella body of all political parties in Nigeria. As such, one of our cardinal objectives is to deepen democracy in Nigeria. And of course, it is a council that I've got the Executive Council, which consists of 9 Executive Council members, with the person at the helm known as the National Chairman of the Council. We have the highest decision-making organ of the Council, that is known as the General Assembly, which consists of all the 19 registered political parties, having a representative each in the General Assembly. And we conduct election like every other organization to elect our executives, and it's a tenured is tenured Would I say, fortunately, the outgone executives benefited from the 2-year extension, because ab initio, it's been a year, that executives are expected to have a lifespan in terms of their tenure. And in the wisdom of the General Assembly, the Code of Conduct, which guides the operations of the council, was amended to grant for 2 years to be able to give every executive council that emerges the ample opportunity to be able to create quite an impression in terms of deliverables in office. And the outgone national chairman, Engineer Yabagi, was the first beneficiary of that 2-year tenure. And that is very instructive because of events that will unfold later on in terms of our discussion. So, that said, Engineer Sani Yabagi had 2 years to know that he was supposed to conduct an election. So if before now it was a year, now you are 2 years. So that naturally presupposes that you should be able to conduct election within your 2-year lifespan. And as the National Organizing Secretary in that particular administration, I was privileged to call his attention to the need for us to roll out notice for election more than 3 months before the expiration of our tenure. But at every point in time, he wasn't just interested. And we had to take it up, and several times...
But he knew that he's supposed to have called for election at a particular point in time. Was he aware that the administration was tenured?
Of course.
Did he know?
Yes.
He knew about it?
He knew about it. I mean, it's not something, that's why it's laughable.
Oh, okay.
Because you are meant to be the one who is at the end of affairs to uphold the code of conduct, which is like the constitution of IPAC. So even if you don't know anything, you should know that you have 2 years for you to be in office. And, naturally you came in through a process. You should be able to allow room for that same process to bring in you again, or to bring another person in this case. And I think it was deliberate, because I see no reason why the election and other activities of IPAC shouldn't have run concurrently. Because the organization as it is, of course, that is why there are different positions in the organization where you have officers who are meant to multitask and allow things to happen. But he felt, because he said there were activities that would clash with the election. As such, he do not deem it fit that election should go ahead. And the General Assembly, in its wisdom, came together and felt, let there be an extension by a week, so that the current ESCO can continue to be in office until the election that took place on the 18th December. But some progressive party leaders, including my party, opposed to that idea, that we cannot violate the code of conduct, that even if the General Assembly is the highest decision-making organ of the party, we should be able to set good precedent. We shouldn't also violate our own code of conduct, which is our own constitution that guides us, that says, for every officer so elected has a 2-year tenure, and our 2-year tenure will be expired on the 13th of December. So why should we, if we feel that there will be a vacuum before the election, which is on the 18th, why not let's set up a caretaker committee for that period, which is just a week. In any case,
to obey the law.
Obey the law. And there will be nothing that is the right thing to do, and that is the way to go. But some people who could not see beyond primordial sentiments were vehemently opposed to that idea and felt the current executive that should continue. And we said, no, who is the current executive? I'm one of them, and so many others who were seated. And they said they were not interested in their tenure being extended, and nobody will want to be part of illegality, because we want it to be on record this day that some of us stood against tyranny and impunity. if you do this, then that is an incentive for any other administration to also not want to conduct election as at the time that election ought to be conducted. Because if a leadership had 2 years in office, and they had, within that 2 years, they knew that they were supposed to conduct election to either hand over or remain in office, and refused to do it as at the time they were supposed to do it, then it shouldn't also, the General Assembly shouldn't, support irresponsibility. So we should be able to carve out a situation where there will be deterrent for any other leader who is planning to do that in the nearest future. And that was basically our position. Yeah. But while they were trying to do, there was scuffle within that period, and that meeting was inconclusive. Even though some of them came together and they said, they've extended the tenure, and some of us also came together and said, no, this didn't happen, and it wasn't part of
before you continue giving us more about, let me find out what IPAC stands for. Has it been in existence for long, or it came into existence only when Engineer Yabagi
No. IPAC has been in existence for a very long time now, and IPAC is almost going to 2 decades now.
Wow.
If no more than, I think effectively started in 2002. Okay. 2002. And if you were to calculate now, it's over 2 decades.
Honestly.
Yes, so IPAC has...
So you have had chairman until it got to his time.
That is the irony. IPAC has been there before his party was even registered, before the ADP was registered. And instructively, he wasn't part of this IPAC until 2 years ago that he wanted to contest. He personally wrote to INEC that his party doesn't want to be part of IPAC. So, but when it came clear that he was going to contest, he quickly, brought himself back, to IPAC and became a member of IPAC. And under these 2 years, on record that he couldn't even conduct the simplest of tasks, which is even conducting election among 19 political parties. He couldn't do it within the time frame that was stipulated in the Code of Conduct. So that should give you an idea of the kind of leadership that IPAC had in the last 2 years. And we're going to be, as events begin to unfold, we'll begin to, estray his personality and, what he brought to IPAC and how IPAC has gotten to where it is in terms of administration. And as I now earlier said, it was even a big surprise to you that, was it that IPAC was not existing? IPAC was definitely, others have come and gone, and they've handed over some even 2 year tenure of 1 year, and they handed over to, and there's never been, and that is where this is very instructive, there's never been any transition in IPAC where the person who lost went to court. There has never been. In the history of IPAC, this will be the first time that he is going to court having lost an election. And this was an election where he congratulated the person that won, in the person of Alhaji Yusuf Dantale. He also said, the media was there, they covered him, the clips are there, we'll make it available to you. And he said, this is democracy in action. That was what he said. Because it will be stupid to anybody that 19 political parties cannot conduct a transparent process to elect leaders. It will be insane. But we did it, and it was transparent, it was open on the 18th of December 2023 at the conference hall of the Zenith Labour Party.
Was there anything noticeable at the point of conducting this election that you finally elected Alhaji Yusuf Dantale to become the newly elected chairman? Was there anything noticeable that was being done outside the rule that guides your
nothing except the overvaunting ambition of an individual who was interested in perpetually remaining in office.
Do you have electoral committee?
Yes, electoral committee was set up before the meeting of December 12th, where we came to deliberate the vacuum that would be created if the tenure of the last executive expired on the 13th.
Yes.
So there was a meeting, 2 meetings before that one, where the electoral committee was set up. 3-man electoral committee, of which Chief Idan Nwayanwu was actually the electoral committee chairman, the national chairman of the ZLP. And we had the national secretary Okopi Agu, who happens to be the secretary of the electoral committee of the AAC, and the national woman leader of the APC, who completed the 3-man committee for the electoral committee. And they did a wonderful job in. And
all these individuals mentioned, they all knew that there were electoral committee members.
It was the General Assembly that set up the electoral committee. Not that it wasn't Yabagi who set up the electoral committee. It was the General Assembly, which is the highest decision-making organ of IPAC, that set up this electoral committee. In their wisdom, they also set up an appeal committee. Now, this appeal committee is meant to, preside over issues that may arise from the conduct of the election. Just like the way you have your election tribunal. Yeah. We also had our own election appeal committee. Where so if there are issues that you are not, you feel...
You created that committee in anticipation that...
And to be fair to Alhaji Yabagi, it was also his idea when we were conducting the state elections that brought up the leadership at the various state level, He brought this idea. So the idea now stuck with the organization that is good. It's also good to also anticipate. And it was created. And Alhaji Muhammad Lawan Alado was made the chairman of that appeal committee. He's the national chairman of the Accord Party. So the whole essence is, if you are aggrieved and you are not satisfied with the process in the election, you go to the appeal committee to listen to your case. And come out with a report based on the outcome. Then the General Assembly can now sit and decide, whether in your favor or against your favor.
Were people campaigning?
Of course we campaigned. Every campaign is like every other election. You have to also reach out to party leaders, and tell them what you've got to offer. And for those who were in office, you could pull your strength from your achievements while in office.
And the guidelines towards conducting the elections were provided for every...
It was provided. It was in somebody's public knowledge. Yeah. I sent it to you so that you can also have an idea of what... There was a guideline that was prepared by the Electoral Committee, which the General Assembly came together to endorse, and they ratified it.
Now, is it possible for this 3-man committee, electoral committee, is it possible at the point of the election, if one is unable to come or step aside, can election be conducted? Can it form a quorum?
Why not? It will form a quorum. The basic quorum, and I sent you the code of conduct, of IPAC, and the requirement for forming quorum of any meetings, of any committees at all, is 50%. Okay. So 50% in this case, and that is the way we even operate in IPAC. If we are having a General Assembly meeting, once we have 50%, we form a quorum, and whatever decision we take at that meeting is binding on the others who are not present. Who didn't attend. So it's the rule he met on ground.
Now the committee, for instance, if you have a electoral committee 3 and one is not there, for instance, can election continue?
Why not? It doesn't invalidate the process because they're able to form a quorum. That is the same rule that applies to any committee, including the electoral committee. That's why it's a committee. Okay. That rule of quorum is universal for all our meetings and all our operations. Some people cannot hold. Okay, if for example, if that was the precondition, then most of the meetings he has been holding must have been a nullity.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say, because you cannot be appropriating and reprobating at the same time. You are meant to be somebody who you not only take decisions. You take decisions not based on your sentiment, but based on the available laws and rules that guides the operation of such an organization. So if we went ahead with an election on the 18th of December 2023, having first gone against your motive of remaining in office perpetually, I think from the events that have strayed and that are now happening, that are unfolding, it is clear that he was only interested in remaining in office beyond his tenure.
Okay.
And there are constitutional means by which you can end that. And you failed to end it at the election. So why not appeal to the committee who will now look at your case on the merits? And if you are not now satisfied at the end of the day, and then if going to court is the option, then you can now explore that possibility.
Yeah.
But one party cannot superimpose your opinion, your position, or your feelings on 18 political parties. It's not done anyway.
Are you all equal?
We're all equal
in terms of power.
We're all equal. That is why it is one party, one vote. On that day, it was just 19 votes. It was done transparently. The ballot boxes were transparent. And you were all giving your ballot paper to go and vote for your leaders of choice. And at the end of the day, winners emerged. You saw it. You commended the process. And you were happy with the process. Even though you weren't happy that you lost. But you cannot fault that process that brought in Alhaji Yusuf Dantale.
In the lifetime of IPAC, has there been any indication of one of the chairmen who showed interest, like the way he showed interest to remain in power? Did you have any history of that at all?
Yeah.
At the point of in the process
I'm still. My party only sent me to IPAC like a little bit about 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and from the activities and actions that are followed in time past, I cannot remember. They know is the standard operation of IPAC. When it was even a year, they know that, look, 365 days from January to December, you are there as the IPAC chairman. And if you want to remain in office, of course, you avail the opportunity to go for a second time of another 1 year. All you needed to do was just what? You campaign among your fellow political parties and their leaders to vote you on the reason why you either want to continue your office or why you should be voted for those who are coming in for the first time. And in this case, that was exactly what he did. And he lost out. So I've not seen in history, in fact, he's setting a new precedent in IPAC, which is unprecedented in the history of this council. I've never heard and never have I seen from the few years I've been in IPAC that somebody lost in a transparent process and is going to court without exhausting the internal mechanism of resolving such issues.
What are the benefits in being a chairman in that?
I think that is what we should start asking Alhaji Yabagi Sani, and it's very instructive that we should ask him that what is in IPAC that is so desperately in need of that he must be the national chairman. Why? What is it? The council is larger than him or his ego, and I think that is what is beginning to baffle some of us stakeholders. That we look at. I mean, what is in this council? Is there something beyond you offering service? Is there something beyond you protecting the interests of the registered political parties? Is there something beyond you protecting the sanctity of democracy? Is there something beyond you ensuring that the council contribute its quota to a transparent, fair process in election? I mean, except there is something beyond that, I don't know, that only Yabagi himself, Alhaji Yabagi himself, can bring to the fore. I think IPAC's mandates are quite clear.
Are your views considered when it comes to meeting? Otherwise, one will assume the chairman subsumes nearly everything concerning council, and he takes decision without meeting you. So what I'm asking you this question is to know whether or not in a meeting are your views considered at the end of the day when you are deliberating on a particular need or a particular issue that requires national attention.
Of course, our views are sacrosanct, and when there are divergent views, we move a motion.
Okay.
For both views, and we vote.
Okay.
But in the history of Yabagi 2 years tenure as the national chairman of IPAC, Engineer Yabagi had never put any issue to vote. In fact, at the point in time, he stopped having council meeting and was operating like a tyrant. And I'm saying this from the place of information that should not be disputed, because I was the national organizing secretary when he was the national chairman.
Okay.
And several times people like us have stood up to him. And we remain fearless, because I'm coming from a background where you don't shut people down, where people are allowed to express their opinions, no matter how stupid. And probably there's a conflict, because he is coming from a party where he's like the tribal chief. His word is law, and nobody dare question his authority. Where he's the NWC, he's the NEC, he's the BOT. But I'm coming from a proper institution, the Young Progressives Party, where we have respect for law and order, where we have respect for the Constitution, which is the document that binds all of us. So no one should be shut down. So, and we stood against this. And it's some people like us, like an enemy. And I said, look, I've got nothing to do. I'm only not. See, look, if the only thing that binds us while we are together is this code of conduct, let's obey it. But it seems not to want to do anything that is democratic. He only professes democracy. Alhaji Yabagi is not a Democrat, and his actions over time have shown that he's never been a Democrat. Because he is the same man who in 2019 was the national chairman. Let me finish. In 2019 was the national chairman and presidential candidate of his political party.
Fine.
In 2023, it was the same thing. It was the same thing. So
what will you now say? He's not even a democratic person. Having gone through these processes to becoming the president of the country, if Nigerians had given him the mandate. So at what point will you say he is not democratic?
No, the country
is it only that he's authoritative in his approach?
You see, the country dodged a bullet, because somebody like him will not in any way have emerged as a president of this beloved country. Because if he had, this country would have been doomed, and that is the honest truth. Because if he was democratic, he would have been wise enough to also understand that he is not the only competent person in his own party.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
That there are other competent people in his party.
Throughout the period he stayed for 2 years as the national chairman, what did he do differently as compared to his own his predecessors, that you think he wants to ensure that continuity is there, so that he makes the council to be strong or maybe well known than ever?
What his actions are.
I don't want you to tell us if there were other things that he did and considered to be different from any other person that was there before him.
Unable to conduct an election within the time stipulated.
That's the only thing?
No, not the only thing. He was unable to organize successful programs. In fact, I'm giving you this. You are a journalist, and I want you to take it as a point of duty to investigate, so that it will not be, because I'm the national organizing secretary, and it's within my mandate for IPAC to organize programs. In February 15, we were supposed to organize a program, and that is a kind of national dialogue, like a national conference.
That was 2023,
before the election, so that we can join conversation in the election, bringing critical stakeholders on board to be able to deliberate on the forthcoming, election. No, did I say no? In January, sorry.
January.
It was in January.
Right.
It was in January. Please, you can go and do your investigation at the International Conference Center, where we paid for the executive hall. We paid an advance for that hall for that program to be held in that International Conference Center. Now we've invited all critical stakeholders who have all, shown interest to be part of that activity. Alhaji Engineer Yabagi single-handedly scuttled that program just 3 days before the program.
To mean what?
He said he wanted the then president to be part of the process, to be part of the program. And as such, they are going to give us another date. And people like us told him that, look, which date are you talking about again? When an election is just few weeks, and the purpose of this program is for us to lend our voice to the conversation on this election. And he was able to, as being his usual way, he circumvented the council, spoke with some stakeholders who are political party chairmen, and he came and he scuttled the process, and that program did not hold. Up to today, that money is still hanging there. We've not been able to recover that money from that ICC. The money we paid at the Nikon Luxury for delegates that were supposed to start coming that Friday, the money, as we speak, is still hanging there. I'm just trying to paint his incompetence, and you were talking about what he has done, and that is one, and so that you will not know. So now, the same thing, like deja vu, when we warned him, we were supposed to do a centenary program to mark the 100 years of the existence of political party in Nigeria. And immediately that initiative was conceived, we said, please, let's move and see how we can, galvanize stakeholders, pay for all, do the necessary things so that this program can come into fruition. The same thing he did was trying to get a date from the current president for us to be able to fix a date. And that thing dragged until we eventually went to pay for the all again. We paid over 5-point-something million. And this thing is on record. We paid to use that all on the 13th of December. So you can go and verify this thing I'm saying, if I'm lying or I'm telling the truth. We paid that money to use the African ore. And because of his normal approach of the way he handles and deals with things, he circumvented his executive, started forming one committee and another committee, disbanding one committee, forming another committee, until it became obvious that that program was not going to hold. And that was even the reason why he gave for the election not to take place on the day our tenure expired, before our tenure expired. That they had to give him, they had to say, okay, let's put the election on the 18th. At the end of the day, that program for which they said, let's put an election on the 18th rather than before the expiration of our tenure, the program is not hold. And our money, as we speak, is there in International Conference Center. So these are things we should verify. That program could not hold just because of his approach to leadership. And the only successful program that was organized was because people like us stood against him. And we said no, the program was going to go ahead because he already scuttled the only successful program that was held in that 2023. He already, the same pattern, and that is a pattern, and that is where we begin to look that something must be fundamentally wrong. And that was why people like us stood against him. The only program that was successful that was held in Barcelona, that was a summit, was a program that some of us stood that must hold, which he was ready to also cancel. And we said, no, this one will go ahead. And that program happened, and it was successful. And we have NIPS as our witness on this matter. Yeah. So these are facts. And because in coming to studio today, I thought maybe he or his representative would have come so that they would have disputed.
It's only that I should have played for you some of these facts. The briefing they gave to journalists just yesterday concerning what you are saying. It's only that I would have played it so that you could equally watch and hear what they were saying concerning what you are saying. But that's not too late. Subsequently, when you are being invited,
so you can you can see this action for a man who cannot even follow any programs through successfully. He cannot execute any program throughout his 2 years tenure successfully. Only frustrating and scuttling programs. How would you now?
Now let me ask you this fundamental question now, comrade. Okay, Jazz. Let's just take a short break a little bit. Then when I get back to you, so that if there's an opportunity, you will not get to hear what they say at the time they have the briefing with us yesterday. Okay. Don't go with this political viewpoint on Aso Television.
Addressing the media, the National Organizing Secretary of the Action Democratic Party, ADP,
Dr. Alex Mayanga said Alhaji Sani Yagbayi was cleared by the party ADP to recontest for the position. Dr. Mayanga disclosed that the contest was between Alhaji Sani Yagbayi and Alhaji Dantele, where Alhaji Sani Yagbayi lost out to Dantele. Dr. Alex Mayanga alleged that the election was marred with irregularities.
ADP is committed to upholding democratic values, transparency, and the rule of law. We cannot tolerate electoral fraud or the manipulation of democratic processes. Now, political parties are the building blocks of our democracy. In fact, they are the flaming beacons of our democracy. And we must lead by example in practicing clean and acceptable electoral processes. IPAC should serve as a model for all political parties, fostering an enduring democratic culture and good governance in Nigeria. In fact, it is said in the Bible, if the sword loses its value, then you can begin to imagine what the chef will do in the kitchen.
Arising from these irregularities, Alhaji Sani Yagbayi approached the court asking for the swearing-in of Alhaji Yusuf Dantale to be stopped. The National Organizing Secretary said the Abuja Federal High Court therefore directed IPAC to stop the swearing-in of the newly elected chairman until the matter was entertained in the court.
So free and fair elections are essential for the growth and development of our nation. This is the end point of the submission of Action Democratic Party, ADP. And having noted this, we want to use this opportunity, to felicitate with Nigerians for having crossed over from 2023 to 2024.
Alhaji Sani Yagbayi before now was the presidential candidate of the ADP and now the current chairman of the party ADP. Topsy Gimba, Aso Television News.
Welcome back. Yes, that was Dr. Alex Mayanga, the organizing secretary for Action Democratic Party, briefing journalists yesterday at about this time, as a matter of fact, on why they should cancel the swearing-in of the newly elected chairman of IPAC. And you are one of the members of the council. Having watched and listened to him, is he standing on a very fair ground? No. And you have to be very brief.
No, honestly, I think this is laughable because I saw the person who was addressing the press conference. He calls himself the national organizer. He calls himself a doctor. And in my own opinion, I feel his doctorate should be investigated. And it's not unconnected with the fact that how can you call a political party or, reading a press conference that was not read by the national chairman. It wasn't even read by the national public secretary of the party. And it goes to show that we told you that it doesn't have a functional NWC. Because if he had the national public secretary, he should have been the one addressing the press conference in his absence, which is the statutory responsibility of the national public secretary, and that is one. And after having, you see, when you listen to what he said, he ended up saying nothing. I don't know if you really, I think journalists should be very critical in terms of, how they, ask people like these questions. Now, you said the election was marred by irregularities, and he couldn't point out one thing. You just say it's a blanket statement.
Yeah, because
without you pointing what the irregularities are.
The irregularities that the committee, the electoral committee, was not formed. There's supposed to be 3, but at the end of the day, when the election was conducted, only 2 persons were there, and that is a minus, and it's legal. It's truly.
You see, you cannot bring the impunity in your political party to a council that consists of equals. A general assembly set up the electoral committee. They could have said, okay, we want to set up 2 people. But in their wisdom, they set up 3 people. And why do you set up 3 people? It's just that if there are issues that demand that you should vote, you can get you can take an outright decision if it happens. Now, if in the case that 3 of them, one person decides, because in this case, the person in question even traveled. He took excuse from the committee members. He traveled. It was an inevitable journey that he embarked upon outside the country, and he traveled.
But did you communicate to him at any point in time?
No, they were communicating. That is the job of the electoral committee. The very moment you set up an electoral committee, that you swear them in to continue to perform their function. Their job is to carry out the function for which they've been constituted.
Okay.
It's not for you to sit in your political party, a political party that cannot even boast of a councillor. That should be thinking of how they will end up not being the register. That is a more serious burden. Becoming an IPAC national chairman.
I was even asking a question: Can a person become a chairman of a national chairman of IPAC when his party could not have a councillor or either a representative in anywhere at all? That's the question.
Which is where
then the second question I'm supposed to ask you: do we need IPAC in the first place in trying to do election in Nigeria? But there's no time. If you can just summarize your answer.
No, of course. The role of IPAC is critical to deepening of democracy in Nigeria. It is. It's just like saying, do we need labor? It's like saying, do we need organizations coming together for?
Do you advise INEC?
Yes, of course. That is why it's called the Interparty Advisory Council. We advise INEC. We also contribute largely to the electoral laws. We also call to order the government in terms of policy decisions.
As a council, did you watch how elections were conducted in 2023, and what advice did you give to the chairman of INEC?
Of course, we did. Of course, part of the advice we gave was the need for us to strengthen our electoral laws. We thought we did so much in 2022 only to discover that there are still some loopholes that we later discovered that also, to an extent, tended to mar the last election. And these are things we also ensure that we tie those loose ends, in terms of what we are calling for electoral reform. And to your question, that can somebody who does not have a
representative anyway?
Yes, you can. It is not a prerequisite as far as you are still recognized as a political party in Nigeria. That is the only prerequisite for you to contest.
Are you people paid?
No, that is the irony. My party is the one sponsoring my membership or my stay in IPAC. So it's meant to be funded by your own political party. So whatever we are doing there is for the interest, collective interest. And of course you need it because how do you sit to Georgia to resolve inter-party conflict? You understand? It's like people we are going into election. It's like a war. We want victory. And at the end of the day, there are issues. The issues are not with the government. It's always with fellow political party. So this inter-party advisory is very important to resolve both intra and inter-party conflicts. So if you don't have it, you are setting room for chaos.
Do you go back to report to the national chairman of your party decisions that you often take?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm only holding in trust for him. Statutorily, he is the national chairman that is supposed to be there, but he has delegated me on behalf of the party to represent the party.
Okay. So who is the newly elected chairman now?
The newly elected chairman, for any iota of doubt, for all purposes and clarity, is Alhaji Yusuf Mamman Dantale, the incumbent national chairman of the Allied People's Movement.
Has he been sworn in?
Well, yes, of course, immediately. There's no vacuum. Immediately we were elected, the very next day we signed our oath of office. And what is called swearing in? What is oath of office? And that's why it's laughable when I heard they went to court that you stop with swearing. We swearing in. Swearing in has been done on the 19th of December 2023. So you can see the pattern.
Okay. So if they have gone to court, can we say the court will want you to have status quo ante maintained?
No.
By allowing him to come back and continue?
No, for what?
Oh, okay.
To continue overrule.
Okay.
No, there's in any case we've gone to court to vacate.
Yeah, Comrade Martins.
That order.
Okay. Comrade Martin Egbeola, we thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed discussing with you on this program.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's about the size of the program, Political Viewpoint on Aso Television. My guest was Comrade Martins Egbeola, National Organizing Secretary, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, speaking to us about issues that have come up when the election was conducted on December 18th. And of course, you listen to him. He explained basically what went there and how it went and who now is the chairman of the park. We thank you so much for taking time to watch us. News comes your way at 7. My name is Topsy Gimba. See you again tomorrow. Do have a very lovely evening. We're out of the studio and bye-bye.